It's strange, isn't it? How some things never seem to be what they appear. How we live our lives thinking we know the people closest to us. But there's always that hidden part, that part we're blind to, just waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. Sometimes, it only takes one misstep, one miscalculation, to turn everything upside down. And once you're standing there, looking at the shattered pieces of what you thought was your reality, it's too late to go back. That's how I found myself, standing in the parking lot of my wife's office building at midnight, my hands trembling as I replayed everything I had just witnessed. But let me backtrack a little. The night had started like any other. I was home, alone as usual. My wife, Clara, had mentioned something about a late-night team meeting at her office. She'd been working extra hours lately on a major project, but I never gave it much thought. After all, this was Clara, the woman I had been married to for almost 5 years. I knew her, or at least I thought I did. Around 10 p.m., she'd texted me that she'd be a little later than expected, which didn't raise any alarms at first. It wasn't unusual. Clara had always been a bit of a workhorse. But when she texted me again at 11:30 p.m., saying she was about to head out, something felt off. She didn't usually rush me with those kinds of texts. Something about the tone was different. And I guess that's when the first seed of doubt was planted. I tried to shake it off, but I couldn't. I was just finishing up some work myself when I received a notification on my phone. It was an email from Clara's office. Nothing special, just an update on the project she was working on. But at the bottom of the email, there was something that caught my eye. A photo attachment. At first, I thought it was an accident. Maybe it was a picture of some design or document she had meant to send to a coworker. But when I opened the photo, I froze. It was a picture of Clara and someone else. And that someone else? It was Victor. The name didn't even register at first, but then it hit me like a ton of bricks. Victor, the guy from the marketing team, the one who had always been a little too friendly with Clara in the past. He'd always smiled at me, always shaken my hand like we were old friends, but I never quite trusted him. There was something about the way his eyes lingered a little too long on Clara whenever I wasn't looking. I'd chalked it up to my own insecurities, but now, staring at this photo, I felt that familiar knot tighten in my stomach. In the photo, Clara and Victor were standing close, their bodies almost touching, their faces too close for comfort. He had his arm around her waist, his fingers barely grazing her skin. The look on Clara's face was something I couldn't quite place, a mix of amusement and something else, something deeper. I couldn't be sure. Was it just a playful moment? A joke? Or was there more to it? My mind raced, and all of a sudden, the late-night team meeting didn't seem so innocent anymore. I grabbed my keys and left the house without thinking. I needed to know. The uncertainty gnawed at me, and I couldn't ignore it. As I drove to her office, 100 thoughts raced through my mind. Should I confront her? Should I wait for her to come home and pretend I didn't see the photo? The rational part of me told me to relax, to trust her. But the more I thought about it, the more I felt something break inside me. When I pulled into the parking lot of her office building, I noticed a few cars still in the lot. The lights in the office were dim, but the shadows from the windows told me there were still people inside. I told myself I was being paranoid, that Clara was probably just finishing up a report or some last-minute details, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. I parked my car and walked toward the entrance, my footsteps echoing in the empty lot. As I got closer, I noticed the familiar sounds of laughter and voices drifting from behind the glass doors. Clara's voice. But then, there was another voice. Victor's voice. I stopped in my tracks. My heart skipped a beat. Through the glass, I could see them, Clara and Victor, standing near the kitchenette. Victor was laughing, leaning in close to her, his hand casually resting on the counter beside her. Clara was smiling, but it wasn't the smile I knew. It was different. There was a warmth in her expression, an openness that made my stomach twist. I could see them clearly, but they couldn't see me. I wasn't sure if I should go in, but something inside me told me to stay. I watched them for what felt like an eternity, my breath shallow, my thoughts spinning. I watched as Victor stepped closer to Clara, his voice low and almost teasing. I couldn't make out all the words, but I saw the way Clara's posture changed. Her shoulders tensed, and she took a small step back. Was she uncomfortable? Or was she just playing along? Then, Victor said something that sent a chill down my spine. "Clara," he said, his voice smooth like honey. "I can't stop thinking about you. You know that, right?" And that was it. The air in my lungs disappeared. I couldn't breathe. I wanted to burst through those doors and confront them, to shout at them, to demand answers. But something held me back. Was I being irrational? Did I have enough to go on? The photo? The way she looked at him? Was it enough to accuse her of something I wasn't sure about? I couldn't make myself move. I couldn't do anything but watch. I stood there, frozen, my heart pounding in my chest. The cold night air felt like it was creeping into my bones, but I couldn't move. My eyes were locked on Clara and Victor, watching them through the glass doors. Clara was still smiling, but I couldn't ignore the way Victor was leaning in, his voice barely above a whisper. I didn't need to hear the words to know what was going on. I could see it in the way they stood there, close, too close. Her body language wasn't defensive, wasn't the kind of distance I would expect from someone who didn't want to be near another person. Something in me snapped. I had to know what was happening, but part of me didn't want to hear it. What if I was overreacting? What if this was nothing? But no, the way they were looking at each other, the way they moved together, it felt too intimate, too familiar. Just then, I saw Victor's hand move. He reached out, a subtle motion, but unmistakable. He touched her arm, his fingers grazing her skin for just a moment too long. Clara didn't pull away. She didn't shy back. Instead, she glanced up at him, her eyes meeting his with a soft, almost affectionate look. That was when my mind started to race. Was I just being paranoid? Or was this something more? I couldn't take it anymore. I had to know. But I couldn't just barge in there. I couldn't let them know I was watching. So, I did the only thing I could think of. I waited. I needed to see how far this would go. I tried to steady my breath as I peered through the glass. My hands were shaking now, and I could barely focus. But I couldn't tear my eyes away from them. Victor said something else, something I couldn't catch. Clara's face shifted. Her lips parted, as if she was about to say something, but then she paused. I could see her eyes flicker, a flash of hesitation, almost like she was trying to decide what to do. And then it happened. Victor took a step closer, his face now only inches from hers. The air between them seemed charged, thick with something I couldn't quite understand. It was like they were caught in a moment, suspended in time. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't look away. That's when Clara finally spoke, her voice low and soft. Victor, this isn't right. I heard it clearly now. It was almost like she was trying to talk herself out of whatever was happening. But there was something in her voice, a mix of vulnerability and something else, maybe guilt. Victor didn't seem to take her words seriously. He just smiled, the kind of smile that made my stomach twist. Come on, Clara, he said, his voice dripping with charm. You can't tell me you don't feel this too. You and me, there's something here. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My mind raced as I struggled to process the scene unfolding before me. Was Clara really entertaining this? Was she really allowing herself to get this close to him? Or was she just being polite, being friendly? But the more I thought about it, the more I felt the anger rise. She wasn't pushing him away. She wasn't shutting him down. I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't stay here in the shadows, watching them. But I didn't know what to do next. What was I supposed to say to her when I confronted her about this? What if she denied everything? What if I was wrong? But in that moment, something deep inside me told me I wasn't wrong. And I couldn't just stand by and pretend like nothing was happening. I stayed there, hidden in the shadows, frozen. My heart hammered in my chest as I watched Clara and Victor in that office kitchen. My mind couldn't make sense of what was happening. I was so consumed by the sight of them that I didn't even notice the cold creeping into my bones. Victor's words echoed in my head. You can't tell me you don't feel this too. You and me, there's something here. His tone was casual, like he was just having a conversation. But the look in his eyes was anything but casual. It was an invitation, a challenge. He wasn't just flirting anymore. This was something else. Something darker. And Clara, my wife, didn't shut him down. She didn't pull away. Instead, she hesitated. For a moment, it felt like she was considering him. That brief pause, that tiny flicker in her eyes, it was enough to drive me to the edge. I couldn't stand it. I couldn't watch her let him get closer. But what was I supposed to do? I wasn't some hero who would march in and confront them. I wasn't a man who would yell and demand answers. I was just a guy who thought he knew his wife. But maybe I didn't know her at all. As I stood there, my mind racing, I saw Victor lean in closer to Clara. His hand reached out again, this time gently brushing her cheek. It was an intimate touch, the kind that should never happen between colleagues. Clara didn't flinch. She didn't pull away. I felt like I was suffocating. I was torn between confronting her right there and running away. What if I was wrong? What if I was just reading too much into it? But deep down, I knew I wasn't wrong. That's when it happened. Victor said something that made my blood run cold. Clara, I know you feel it too. We can have something special. You don't have to hide it anymore. I couldn't take it. I had to know what was going on. I couldn't just keep standing there, a passive observer to whatever was unfolding in front of me. I pushed the door open, just enough to let myself in without making a sound. The second I stepped inside, Clara's head snapped toward me. Her eyes widened in shock, and for a split second, I saw something in her expression that made my stomach twist. Guilt? Fear? I couldn't be sure. Victor's smile faltered when he saw me, but it didn't disappear entirely. "Oh, hey man," he said, his voice dripping with feigned innocence. "Didn't see you there." I didn't say anything at first. My eyes stayed on Clara. She was looking at me, but there was an awkwardness now. Something in her gaze shifted. I didn't expect you to be here," Clara said, her voice shaky. I didn't trust myself to speak. I was afraid that if I opened my mouth, I'd say something I'd regret. Instead, I just looked at her, waiting for her to explain. Victor, sensing the tension, stepped back slightly. "Hey, no hard feelings, man," he said, trying to defuse the situation. "We were just talking about work stuff. Nothing more." His words felt empty, hollow. I couldn't tell if he was trying to reassure me or if he was just trying to cover his tracks. But Clara wasn't reassuring me. She wasn't saying anything to clear the air. She just stood there, silent, her face unreadable. And that was the moment I knew. Something was wrong. Something I couldn't ignore anymore. I could feel the tension in the air, thick and suffocating. Clara's silence spoke volumes, louder than any words ever could. She was standing there, just a few feet away, her expression unreadable. Her eyes darted between me and Victor, then back to me, like she was looking for something. Maybe an excuse, maybe a way out. But all I saw in her face was fear. Fear of getting caught? Fear of me finding out the truth? Or fear of what she knew was about to happen? Victor, ever the smooth talker, was the first to break the silence. He laughed, but it was forced, nervous. "Come on, man," he said, stepping back and raising his hands in mock surrender. "No harm done, right? We're just wrapping things up here." His attempt at defusing the situation fell flat, the words hanging in the air like smoke. I couldn't bring myself to speak at first. I was too busy processing everything I had just seen. The way they'd looked at each other, the way he touched her, the way she didn't pull away, it all played back in my mind like a movie on a loop. And the worst part? She wasn't denying it. Clara opened her mouth to speak, but then closed it again. I could see the guilt flashing in her eyes, the hesitation. Whatever was going on, she wasn't ready to face it. But I was done waiting. I was done pretending like everything was okay when I knew it wasn't. I took a step forward, my voice low and controlled. "What's going on here, Clara?" I didn't need to yell. I didn't need to accuse her, not yet, at least. But I needed to know what was happening. I needed the truth. Clara's face paled, and I could see the weight of her words pressing down on her. "It's not what you think," she said quietly, almost as if she was trying to convince herself as much as she was trying to convince me. But her voice lacked conviction. Victor, sensing the storm brewing, tried to step in again. "Look, man," he said, holding up a hand. "You don't have to worry about anything. We were just talking about the project. It's no big deal." I shot him a cold look. "Cut the crap, Victor." My voice was steady, but the anger simmering beneath the surface was hard to hide. Victor looked taken aback. I could tell he wasn't used to being called out like this. He opened his mouth, but I didn't give him the chance to speak. "Clara," I said, turning back to her. "What's going on? I've seen the way he looks at you. I've seen the way you look at him. And now I find you here, alone, with him in the middle of the night?" My words were coming faster now, fueled by a mix of disbelief and betrayal. Clara's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't say anything. She opened her mouth, then closed it again, like she was struggling to find the right words. The silence between us stretched out painfully long. I turned back to Victor, my jaw clenched. "If you think for 1 second I'm going to let you get away with this, you're wrong." My voice was low, dangerous. Victor stepped back, clearly rattled. He glanced at Clara for a moment, then back at me, before muttering something under his breath. But it wasn't the words that mattered. It was the look in his eyes, the look of someone who knew he was caught, but wasn't sure how much damage had already been done. Clara, I said again, my voice softer now, but still firm. Why didn't you stop him? Why didn't you say anything? Clara finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't know how to. I didn't want to hurt you. Those words cut deeper than anything else. She didn't want to hurt me? What was she really saying? Was she telling me she was just going along with this, letting Victor get too close because she didn't want to hurt me by telling me the truth? Or was there something more to it? The silence in the room stretched again, and I could feel my frustration building. But I needed her to admit it. I needed her to tell me the truth. No more half-truths, no more excuses. I took a deep breath. Clara, I need to know. Are you in this with him? Or is this just a mistake? Her eyes met mine for a brief moment, and then she looked away. She took a step back, her shoulders slumping, the weight of the situation finally pressing down on her. I don't know, she said, her voice breaking. I don't know anymore. I stood there stunned. Clara's words hit me like a punch to the gut. I don't know anymore. Her voice was so fragile, so broken, I almost didn't recognize it. It was as if everything we had built, all the trust, all the years, was crumbling right in front of me. Victor, sensing the shift, took a step back, but didn't leave. He lingered in the background, his eyes darting between us. It was as if he were waiting for Clara to make the next move, and I wasn't sure what he was expecting from her, or from me. I could feel my hands start to tremble. I had imagined this moment many times before, but nothing could have prepared me for it. I had thought I knew Clara. We'd talked about everything. The late-night conversations, the quiet mornings over coffee. I had thought we shared everything. But now, standing in that cold office hallway, I realized just how wrong I had been. Clara, I said, my voice tight. What do you mean you don't know? You're married to me. I took a step closer, my heart pounding. I wanted to hold her, to make her say something, anything to make this make sense. But I was also terrified of what she might say next. She looked up at me, her eyes full of tears. I never wanted to hurt you, she whispered. I never thought it would get to this point. It felt like a betrayal, hearing those words. It wasn't the apology I had expected, the one where she would take responsibility and end this. Instead, it felt like she was still stuck somewhere between the past and whatever this thing with Victor was becoming. I turned to Victor, my anger rising again. You think you can just waltz in here, take advantage of her, and nothing happens? Is that it? I didn't care if he was caught off guard, or if he was trying to act innocent. He had crossed a line, and I wasn't going to let him slither away from it. Victor finally stepped forward, his posture defensive. Look, man, I never meant for things to get out of hand. We were just talking. Things happen. She's an incredible woman, and we've been working closely together. You can't always control these things. His words hit me like a slap. It wasn't just the audacity of what he was saying, but the fact that he was justifying it. You don't get to justify this, I said, stepping closer to him. This isn't a mistake. You knew exactly what you were doing. Clara looked between us, her face pale, her hands wringing together. She opened her mouth to say something but paused, her breath catching in her throat. I don't know how to fix this, she said, her voice trembling. I don't even know if I want to fix it anymore. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Was she really saying this? Was she questioning everything? Was she already so far gone that she didn't care about us anymore? Victor, still standing there, seemed to sense the shift in Clara. He looked at me, then at her, a smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. Maybe it's time you both face facts. Things change, people change. You can't hold on to something that isn't there anymore. That was the moment I snapped. I took a step forward, my fists clenched. Don't you dare talk about my marriage like that. My voice was low, dangerously calm, but the fury behind it was unmistakable. Clara flinched, as if my words were the final blow to something fragile between us. She turned away, looking down at the floor, and for a moment, I saw the weight of everything she had been carrying. I wanted to reach out to her, to tell her it was going to be okay, but how could I? How could I say that when everything was falling apart? The silence between us was suffocating. Clara, I said again, my voice quieter now, almost pleading. Tell me the truth. Do you still love me? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she looked at Victor, and for a brief moment, I saw something in her eyes, a flicker of doubt, maybe guilt. Or maybe it was something else, something I wasn't ready to face. But before she could speak, Victor chimed in again, his voice too casual for the situation. It's not about love, man. It's about what feels real. That was the moment I realized that Victor wasn't just trying to get close to Clara. He was trying to destroy something I had fought for, and he didn't even know the half of it. I could feel my chest tighten, every muscle in my body coiled with tension. Victor's words echoed in my ears, but they made no sense. It's not about love, man. It's about what feels real. What was that supposed to mean? How could he just throw everything away like that? I turned to Clara, my voice shaking now. Do you agree with him? Is that it? Is that what you're telling me? Her eyes fluttered, and for a moment, she looked lost, like she didn't know what to say. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. I felt the ground shift beneath me. Everything I thought I knew about our marriage, about Clara, was suddenly in question. Could I ever trust her again? Could we even move forward from this? Victor was still there, standing in the background like a specter, silently watching as everything I held on to was falling apart. I shot him a look, one that could have burned him alive if looks could kill. Stay out of this, I snapped. He held up his hands defensively, but I saw the smug expression on his face. It wasn't just arrogance, it was triumph. He thought he had won. Clara's voice broke through the silence, a whisper at first. I don't know what I feel anymore. Everything's so messed up. I could see the tears welling in her eyes, and it almost broke me. Was she just confused? Or had I lost her completely? Tell me what you want, Clara, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Do you want him? Is that it? Because if you do, just say it. She shook her head violently. No, I don't want him. It's not like that. The words seemed hollow, though. They didn't reach me, not in the way I needed them to. The longer I stood there, the more I questioned whether they were just words to placate me, to keep the peace. Victor stepped forward again, this time more boldly. Look, it's obvious she's confused. I don't want to make things worse. I wanted to yell at him, tell him to get out, but something in the way Clara was standing there, her head lowered, her hands trembling, kept me from lashing out. Clara, I said again, softer now, my heart aching. If you don't want him, then what is this? Why are you letting him get so close? She looked up, and for the first time, I saw something different in her eyes. Not fear, not guilt, but something I hadn't expected, frustration. She was angry. Angry at herself, at the situation, maybe even at me. Because I don't know what else to do, she shouted, the words cutting through the silence like a knife. I've been so lost, and I don't know how to fix this. I didn't ask for this, but it happened, and now I don't know what to do about it. My heart sank. That was it, wasn't it? She didn't know what she wanted. She didn't know where we stood anymore. Victor took a step closer, his presence looming like a shadow over us. Maybe it's time to let go of what's not working. It's clear she's not happy. His words were poison, and I could feel every inch of my body recoil at them. But the worst part was that I couldn't tell if he was right. Clara's tears finally fell. I never wanted this to happen, she said, voice breaking. I never wanted to hurt you. But the damage was done, and I wasn't sure I could ever put the pieces back together. The silence between us stretched, unbearable, heavy. I could feel the weight of everything pressing in on me, on us. Clara was crying now, soft sobs escaping her lips, but I didn't know how to comfort her. How could I, when she had let this happen? When she had let him into our lives in a way that felt too intimate, too real? Victor, still lingering in the background, seemed almost pleased by the chaos. His eyes flickered between Clara and me, and I could see the subtle smirk playing at the corner of his mouth. He had what he wanted. No matter what happened now, he had planted the seed of doubt in my mind, and it was growing faster than I could control. I wanted to yell at him, to throw him out of the office and never speak to him again. But there was something about the way Clara looked at me, the raw, fragile look in her eyes, that made me pause. She was broken, and I wasn't sure I could fix it. Clara, I said again, my voice quieter now, as if I could reach her with the softness I hadn't shown before. Tell me what you need. I can't keep doing this, standing here, wondering if I'm the one you really want. She looked at me, eyes swollen from crying, and shook her head. I don't know what I want anymore. The words cut through me, sharper than anything Victor had said. I don't know how we got here. I don't know if I can go back to what we had. My heart dropped, a hollow emptiness settling in my chest. Was this really happening? Was she really telling me that everything we'd shared, everything I thought was unshakable, was gone? I turned to Victor, my gaze cold, almost murderous now. Stay out of this, Victor, I spat. This isn't your fight. But he just smirked, his arms crossed over his chest. It's already over, man. You're just too blind to see it. He was pushing, testing me. I could feel the anger bubbling up inside, but I had to fight it. I couldn't let him provoke me anymore. Clara wiped her eyes, her hands shaking. I don't know if I can fix this. I don't know if I want to. I've been feeling lost for so long. And now this, all of this, it feels like too much. I wanted to scream at her. I wanted to tell her how hurt I was, how betrayed I felt. But when I looked at her, all I could see was the same woman I had married, the same woman I had shared everything with. Was this really over? Or was there still something left? Victor stepped forward now, his voice low, almost too calm. Maybe it's time to face reality, Clara. You don't have to keep pretending. You can let go of what isn't working and take a chance on something new. His eyes lingered on her for a moment too long. I felt the blood rush to my face. I couldn't let this happen. Not like this. Stop talking to her, I growled. This is between us, not you. But Clara wasn't listening to me anymore. She turned away, her back to both of us, and for a moment, I thought she might walk out of the room altogether. I don't know what to do, she whispered. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Was she giving up on us? Was she giving up on everything we had? I wanted to fix this. I wanted to make everything go back to the way it was, when we were happy and everything felt solid. But now, standing there with the two of them, Clara, broken and unsure, and Victor, smug and unbothered, I couldn't see how we could ever go back. And that was the worst part, the not knowing. The fear that maybe this was it. Maybe everything had just slipped away and I hadn't seen it coming. The silence was unbearable, stretching out between us like an ocean. Clara's shoulders trembled, her back still turned to us. The weight of her words, the uncertainty in her voice. It felt like a door was closing, one I wasn't ready to walk away from. Victor stood there, still far too calm for my liking, but even he seemed to sense that the moment was slipping away. I could feel the anger in me simmer down, replaced by a heavy sadness. But beneath that sadness, something else stirred. I had been so focused on the hurt, on the betrayal, that I hadn't stopped to think about what Clara really needed. I could feel it now, a small ember of hope flickering inside me. I took a deep breath, stepping closer to her. Clara, I said softly, my voice quieter than I intended. She didn't turn around, but I could tell she was listening. I'm not giving up on us. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. Victor's presence felt like a shadow, but I pushed it aside. This wasn't about him anymore. This was about Clara and me, about whatever was left between us, no matter how fragile it felt. Clara slowly turned to face me, her eyes red and swollen from crying. But there was something different there now. Something softer. I don't know how to fix this, she whispered, her voice trembling. I stepped closer, carefully, gently. We don't have to fix everything right away. But we can start. We can take it one step at a time, together, if you still want that. She hesitated, looking down at the floor for a long moment. I could see the battle in her eyes, the fear of the unknown, the uncertainty of what was next. But then, slowly, she nodded. I do, she said, her voice barely audible, but firm enough to make my heart lift. I don't want to lose us. I've just been so lost. I reached out, taking her hand in mine. It felt like a small victory, but it was something real. I wasn't sure how everything would work out, but I knew one thing for sure. We weren't done yet. Victor, seeing the shift between us, finally took a step back. He nodded once, not as a gesture of defeat, but as one of understanding. I'll leave you two to figure it out, he said, his voice low and unthreatening. But just remember, Clara, sometimes the hardest part is realizing when it's time to move on. His words lingered in the air, but they didn't matter anymore. Not to me, not to Clara. As Victor left the room, I turned back to Clara. We've got a lot to work through, I said, but I'm willing to try. Are you? She looked at me for the first time that night, really looked at me, and smiled through her tears. I'm willing to try too. And that was all I needed to hear. As I held her there, in the quiet of the office, I knew that we had a long road ahead of us. But for the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful. Maybe we could rebuild what had been broken, piece by piece. Maybe, just maybe, we'd find our way back to each other.